Hey, it's Trey, and you're listening to Us and Them. And I'm wondering, what did you do last summer? Me? Other than a lot of open water swimming and working on Us and Them, I spent a fair amount of time parked in front of the television set, watching the January 6th Select Committee hearings.
Over multiple months, Donald Trump oversaw and coordinated a sophisticated 7-part plan to overturn the presidential election.
The president said, just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman.
The president said something to the effect of, I'm the effing president, take me up to the Capitol now.
It was carnage, it was chaos.
Like just about every day, on the morning of the 6th, I was working on Us and Them. I remember the news shows that morning talking about a large group of people coming to Washington for a rally to protest the election certifications. There were predictions that things could get violent.
Yeah, and I want to show our viewers that picture. A protester is sitting there in the well of the U.S. Senate. John, who would have ever believed we would see anything like this?
Multiple capital injuries! Multiple capital injuries!
During the rally, I had the TV on in the background, speaker after speaker cycling across the screen. But every now and again, I'd catch what they were saying, like former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani.
And if we're wrong, we will be made fools of. But if we're right, a lot of them will go to jail. So, let's have trial by combat.
And Donald Trump Jr.
This is the Republican Party that's not just gonna roll over and die because the Democrats would like you to. No more!
Even with the television muted, I could see that the crowd loved it. They were angry too.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. We are not going to let them continue to corrupt our elections.
And that's why we're all here today. He loves God, he loves our flag, and he loves all of you.
Good morning. How you doing? Have a good swim.
Thank you. How was yours?
It was great.
Yeah?
Great.
Some of you might recall, I started open lake swimming in the beginning of the pandemic. I do it year-round. It's one of the few COVID habits I've kept. I like to take a whole lap around the lake and then across and back. It's where I get my best thinking done. Some days, I hash out debates with myself about the state of our world. Other times, I just let it all float away. I get to a place where sometimes, like in the middle of about a half a mile in, it's like a meditative thing, and I get like these deep thoughts.
Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore, and that's what this is all about.
That is more of something that is bigger and that is dangerous.
Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal. We will never give up. We will never concede. Never concede.
I don't know. Sometimes I think it's necessary to kind of detach from land and get out in the middle of water and just be your own vessel, where you can just kind of think independently from all the noise around you.
We just need to remember who we are. We are the United States of America. The United States of America.
I don't know. That's what I'm thinking.
Good morning. How you doing? Have a good swim.
Thank you. How was yours?
It was great.
Yeah.
Great.
January 6th was a float-away kind of day. I put on my wetsuit, headed out to the lake just as the rally was winding down. I really thought that the rage I saw on television would eventually fizzle out. We all know what actually happened next.
This is now effectively a riot.
1349 hours declaring it a riot.
Whether you call what happened at the U.S. Capitol that day a rally, a protest, a riot, or an insurrection, I wanted to believe that in a normal world, this would be a final straw. I mean, maybe this would be the thing that would snap us out of our entrenched, politically tribal thinking, and that a majority of Americans would see how crazy things had gotten in our country. And perhaps this would be a clarifying moment for the Republican Party. Turns out, normal is surprisingly forgettable. It can get lost in the fog of rationalizing, whataboutism, and doubling down. I saw it from party leaders and people in my own life. The House of Representatives impeached President Trump, but the Senate did not vote to convict. Then the House assembled a special committee to investigate the whole fiasco. It felt promising to me that this investigation would include Republicans. Congressional investigators interviewed the protesters, law enforcement, and people inside President Trump's administration. Even his kids. But there was controversy at the beginning about who would be interviewed. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi rejected some of the Republicans nominated to the committee. Then leader Kevin McCarthy chose not to have any of his members take part. So the only Republican representatives were people who were not in good standing with their leadership. Some Americans saw them as courageous. To others, they were traitors. I got in the water on January 6th. And when I got out, the world was different, really different. So throughout the summer, wherever I happened to be, I made sure to watch the hearings. The morning after the last hearing, I swam backstroke through a particularly long stretch of the lake. My mind rolled back to summer in the 1970s, when daytime TV was wall-to-wall coverage of the Senate's Watergate hearings.
If the many allegations made to this date are true, then the burglars who broke into the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee at the Watergate were in effect breaking into the home of every citizen of the United States.
I began by telling the president that there was a cancer growing on the presidency, and that if the cancer was not removed, the president himself would be killed by it.
I was about 11 back then, too young to truly understand what was happening. But I was fascinated. My Republican parents voted for Nixon, and they followed just about every twist and turn in those hearings. I remember gatherings that summer where extended family and friends of my parents, some who were Republican and some who were Democrat, had intense discussions. They were watching the hearings. And if they weren't watching, they were reading about them. As I said before, January 6th seemed like a final straw. At least I thought so. And I thought the hearings might be a place for investigators to share the truth about what happened. But there are plenty of people I know who didn't watch any of the hearings for a variety of reasons. It might not be surprising to hear me express concern about that. But I decided to stick with the us and them experiment and ask these people why they were not watching the hearings and to hear them out. So I made some calls. From West Virginia Public Broadcasting and PRX, this is Us and Them, the show where we talk about the things that divide us. I'm Trey Kay.
Where are you at today, Trey? Are you in New York, or upstate New York?
I'm in upstate New York.
Well, that's the best part.
It is. It's, like where I am. Some of you might recognize Randy Thomas from one of our most popular episodes, Hillers and Creekers. I've known Randy since I was a teen, when I wore low-top Adidas and he came to school styling and profiling in a pair of Nike Cortezes.
I met you at John Adams Junior High School, probably early 70s.
I think the year was 1974, my friend. It was.
Probably. You probably researched it. I didn't. I'm not a research guy. You know me.
Randy might say that, but he's also a guy who pays attention to current events. Says he'll tune into Fox and CNN and MSNBC, and even West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
But not so much anymore. I don't have much faith in our news organizations. None of them, including Fox.
Have you been watching the January 6th committee hearings?
No, I'm not.
Why not?
I'm just not worried about it. For one, I think that it's a sham in some ways. My direct answer to you was, you've read the Constitution, right? And you were like, how does that pertain to the hearings? And there's a clause or line in the Constitution that says that when the government really gets out of line, then we've got a right and a duty to overthrow the government. And I believe in that. Some would say we should do it through the ballot box, and I agree with that. But I think there comes a time when force might need to be used.
And do you think that January 6th was that kind of time?
I don't know that January 6th was the time, but I tell you, I think we're getting closer. Our country's a mess. Our government officials are just corrupt to the core, both sides. I don't know if I've told you this yet, but the day I turned 18, I went to the courthouse and I registered as a Republican. And I'd been a Republican until about probably 3 months ago or so, and I changed my registration.
What'd you change it to?
Independent. I'm fed up with both parties. You know, George Washington said that the two-party system would be the death of this country, and I believe that. And so I just registered as independent.
Randy says he doesn't support the people who rioted at the Capitol.
We've got the right to assemble peacefully. And so my thought was on January 6th was to do it peacefully. That's just how it's supposed to be done in this country.
So the people who went into the Capitol, smashed windows, broke doors, went into Speaker Pelosi's office, who went into the well of the Congress, who injured people. I mean, should there be accountability and consequences for the folks who did that?
Absolutely.
But when it comes to the investigation and the hearings, Randy thinks it's just another political witch hunt. We disagree there. Typically, I wouldn't acknowledge that. But today I will. Because as Randy and I talked, something started to happen between us. Our words sharpened. Our conversation sounded more and more like a debate.
Okay, so same difference. Let's not split hairs, Trey.
I'm just making sure that. Wait.
He still
Randy.
did it under oath.
Well,
it's an easy answer, Trey.
Actually, to tell you,
they tried to. You don't? Sure, they did.
It was friendly,
police out there,
but we were sparring. It's what we do.
I think the people that planned whatever part that they planned for January 6th have been held accountable.
They have?
I think so.
And do you think that it could possibly go up to the former president?
I don't know. I don't know what he's actually planned. I don't, I guess we'll find out.
How are we going to find out if you don't have faith or reliability in the committee doing the investigation?
Well, that's not up to me. I'm not on the committee, and whether I have faith in it or not doesn't change a thing, but we'll see what happens. I don't know that it was Trump's responsibility really to come out and say anything. I mean, it might have made a difference. It may not have. I don't know. I mean,
he's the commander in chief of our nation.
Oh, sure he is, but I don't know. I mean,
he's the most powerful man in the world.
No, I don't know about that.
At this time, the person who's the president of the United States, he has the keys to he has the codes to the nuclear bombs. When he calls generals, they actually can do things. His predecessor, President Obama, can say, we're going to send a bunch of drones over here to this certain place and we're going to take people out. They have great power. And you're telling me that he can't go to the Capitol and
I'm not. Now, wait a minute. See, now you're changing words up on me. I didn't say he couldn't. I'm saying I'm not sure that he needed to or that it would make any difference. Man, you're awful good about switching words up. I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen to this podcast, dude. And if you jack me up, I'm going to come after you. I told you I'm going to get one of my right wing groups, and I'm going to come after you.
Here's one thing I love about Randy. He'll tell you exactly what he thinks. So as I listened, I also leveled with him. I don't really even want to throw faith into this, but so much of faith really is it right or is it wrong? And it's hard for me to see how this is kind of a nuanced thing. That's one of the things that people on the left are always being criticized from, as being nuanced. It seems to me that my Republican friends or my Trump supporting friends are dancing on the head of a pin on this one. And I don't understand why.
I think they might be, Trey, to be honest with you. I'm just saying, I don't know that it was actually his responsibility to say anything. Could he have said something? Sure. But was he actually responsible to say something? Maybe, maybe not. Would it made it any difference? Who knows? You get a bunch of crazy people deciding they want to do something, they're going to do it regardless. Did he have more in the planning of it? I don't know. I wasn't a part of it. I know that.
Do you care?
That's,
do you care?
I care in that something needs to be done. I care in that they weren't very good at what they did. And I've already told you I won't vote for Trump again. So what's that tell you?
In the beginning of Us and Them, I had a belief. We need to listen to each other and respect opinions that differ from our own. I thought if I could create a show to explore that, maybe it would help others navigate those conversations. At least that's what I said in our pilot show 8 years ago. I've stuck with that theory ever since. America's got complicated issues, and we take the leap that people who do and don't agree about something will put themselves out there and, at the very least, listen. I'm not sure that happened between Randy and I, because we never landed anywhere near an agreement that what happened on January 6th was seriously wrong, and there needed to be accountability. I wanted to try again. This time with somebody who I interviewed years ago when the concept of us and them was just taking shape.
My name's Don McElroy. I used to serve on the State Board of Education in Texas, and I love politics. There's this rabbi that I like, Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and he said politics, he defined politics as the practical application of one's most deeply held moral values. And I guess that's one reason I love it. I just, this is life right here. This is important stuff. I just love politics, and therefore I pay attention.
Well, if you're paying attention, are you watching the January 6th hearings?
No, I am not. I'm not watching those hearings. Overall, I think it's because I just don't watch much TV. If you want to know the truth, about the only TV news I ever turn on is to get Tucker Carlson's lead, just the first couple of minutes.
I met Don back in 2012. I was working on a radio documentary about his efforts to challenge the teaching of evolution in Texas schools. Don's a red state voter in a red part of East Texas, right around Texas A&M.
I have an inherent distrust with authority. I have an inherent distrust with these elite experts that want to say that's what you must teach your children. And so I think I operate on a major distrust of government, of media, of science, especially the science. And you're going to have to go out of your way to convince me that you're honest and that you're trustworthy. And by having a committee that is completely biased, that's completely composed of one side, will never fit the bill for convincing me to trust you.
Don and I talked for almost an hour and a half, but we really never got past that idea.
There's nobody on that committee that represents my point of view. And how in the world can you not have a debate, not have a discussion between people that do have different views about the committee and the findings, the evidence that they are, quote, uncovering and all that? You got to have a debate. You got to have somebody with a opposing view. And if there's nobody with an opposing view on that committee, it's really a waste of time.
But let me kind of push back on that a little bit. If finding out exactly what happened is something that you feel is important, and that the Republican leadership basically said, we're not going to play a part of this, we're going to designate right from the very beginning that this is illegitimate, and they move forward and they put their evidence out there, basically what the Republicans neglected to do or opted out of was any ability to probe the evidence and ask for cross-examination. I understand that you say that you don't want to really cast a blame, but in a way, I wonder if you do want to cast a blame somewhat to say, you know what, the guys on my side, and when I say my side, I'm meaning on the side that you support, if the interest is in truth, they should have been a part of that.
You asked me if I'm watching the committee hearings on this January 6th committee, and I'm not, because I'm not going to get a good, accurate view no matter how it got composed. I'm looking at a committee that I don't think will be able to find what actually happened. And everything I read about it seems to support the fact that they will not come up to that to find out what actually happened. That's pretty simple in that respect. Yes, it's a shame that the committee is like this, that it creates doubts for me to sit there and trust what the committee says, but I have no trust that the committee is being honest in the way they're investigating January 6th because of the composition of the committee.
At the end of the call, I told Don I was grateful for his thoughts. And I was. But I felt like we were talking past each other. I've spoken with many people whose worldview is different than mine. And usually I see an opening, somewhere where we can share some light between us. But this time, nothing. I was starting to have serious doubts about making this episode. Was this working? And what was I even trying to do? I had one more shot to find out.
Are you naive enough to believe everything you hear and see?
We'll hear more about that after a break. You're listening to Us and Them. This program is supported in part by the West Virginia Humanities Council, the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation, and the CRC Foundation.
Music lifts us up and brings us together, even when we can't get together in person. Mountain Stage brings you live performances on the air, online, and in our podcast. They remind you how it feels to be in a live audience listening to live music. This is Larry Gross, host of Mountain Stage. Find a link to our stations and our podcast online at mountainstage.org.
Hey, Trey here, and you're listening to Us and Them from West Virginia Public Broadcasting and PRX. In my search for people not watching the January 6th hearings, I found myself on a Zoom call with Jan Bollinger.
I got a message saying this meeting is being recorded by the host or participant. Should I say got it?
Yes, I got it.
Okay, got it.
Jan is 84. She lives in Southwest Pennsylvania, and we've never met. Typically, I'm excited for these kind of conversations, but this time I have nerves. I found Jan through my girlfriend, because Jan is her Aunt Jan.
I didn't watch it because I think it's nonsense, period. And it has helped me change my mind about the media. So I don't even watch the local news. I don't watch any news. In fact, I hardly watch television. I watch British detective shows, and I read, and I work on my computer.
The one thing that kind of concerns me a little bit is that you say that in many ways you do not trust the news media to give you adequate information. Does that concern you?
Sure, it concerns me, but there's nothing I can do about it. So I just turned it off. I remembered when it happened, and I thought to myself, what's the big deal? They're just protesting. Why is this protest more important than any other protest? Why was this such a big deal? And as far as I'm concerned, it was a media thing.
The fact that people went into the United States Capitol and had to have like a pretty forceful encounter with law enforcement, had to cause our elected members of Congress to hide and flee and to have
come on. Hide and flee?
Well, they did.
Okay, well, good. Then they saved their own lives. Good for them. First of all, part of the problem, in my opinion, was they knew this was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen. And
off we went, debating the details. This wasn't my plan, or so I told myself. As I prepared for these interviews, I imagined what people might argue about January 6th. I mean, I'd read plenty from my conservative friends on Facebook. So I planned some talking points to respond with if the conversation went down some of these similar rabbit holes.
They were totally unprepared for this. Why? Did they just let it happen so they could go through all this nonsense? It's possible. Can you prove that they didn't?
That they didn't what?
That they didn't know about it and let it happen so they could have all this crazy nonsense.
I've heard allegations that Speaker Nancy Pelosi was warned about the largeness of the protest, and President Trump asked Nancy Pelosi if she would like the National Guard to come and offer protection, and that she turned it down. But that's been disproved.
By whom? There you go.
Well, no, I actually have an answer to that.
Okay, go ahead.
The Washington Post and the...
Oh, please, don't even go there.
Why not?
The Washington Post, that's your source of disproving it?
Well, you interrupted me before I said all the things. I've got several things to say here.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
And there I was, again, playing defense. I didn't want to believe our realities were so different. Something needed to anchor our conversation. For an hour and a half, we filled that void with what ifs and what abouts. Does it trouble you that the President of the United States didn't order the National Guard to defend the nation's capital on January 6th?
Yeah.
That troubles you?
Somebody should have done something. Yeah.
So in your 84 years, do you remember hearing a large group of people storm the United States Capitol?
Are you trying to get me to agree that this is the most horrible thing that ever happened?
I guess what I'm trying to get you to agree is this is unprecedented.
A lot of things are unprecedented. That's not the first unprecedented thing that's ever happened.
Usually, the point of our show isn't to find common ground or to change anybody's mind. It's to listen. And yet, there I was at this unprecedented moment for our show and our country, and my us and them method was failing. When Jan actually told me what she thought, it didn't feel like enough for me just to listen to her. It's not only that I couldn't accept her worldview, our lack of agreement felt dangerous. If we couldn't agree on whether storming the Capitol was an okay thing to do or whether our election was free and fair, what does that say about the future of the United States? Without that, what else do we have to talk about?
You're talking about something that happened in January 6th. Okay, there were so many things that happened in the past that are let go. Why is this so important? You seem to think it's real important because they got into the Capitol or wherever they got in, and that was a big deal. Yeah, it's a big deal, but they should have been prepared, for God's sake. If you don't lock your house and somebody comes in and rob it, you should have locked your house. If they broke in, that's another story. But you should be prepared, and that's just on a small little thing. Yeah, it's very minor, We're talking about people robbing people every day. That's you don't pick up a newspaper and find out somebody was robbed, but it's the same thing.
But to me, the argument almost seems like if I came to your neighborhood and I broke into your neighbor's house, robbed them, and killed them, it's their fault because they didn't have a better security system?
Yeah, I don't like my neighbor. It wouldn't bother me at all.
That's a very cute, clever answer. But what do you really think?
I don't know. Yeah, they should be punished. Definitely, they should be punished. I already said that. But my little town does have a good police department, so I'm sure they could do something. Now, once they get to the court system, that's a whole other story. Your problem seems to be, or your whole question seems to be about this January 6th thing, that it was a insult or it was a horrible thing that somebody was trying to take over the government. It was a protest. That the government and the Capitol or whoever was hanging out over there was totally unprepared for something that they knew was going to happen. Nobody was killed. The place wasn't broken and torn down. They didn't throw bombs through and everything like that. It was a protest.
And what I suggest to you is that there were people killed and there were things that were broken down.
No. Who was killed? Who, and by whom? Get your facts straight.
No, there was one person. It's been a lot of fun talking to you, and I know I've challenged and pushed you a little bit, and I hope you're okay with that.
Oh, I'm fine with it.
Okay. I would enjoy meeting you in person one day.
Oh, it'll be my honor to meet you someday. Or I should say, you're. Yes, I enjoyed the experience. It was interesting. I don't know whether you got anything out of it or not.
I don't know if I did or not, but I got to talk with you, and you should right now call your niece and say, "Who in the hell is this dude? This dude you're hanging out with."
I was going to say, wow, this Trey Kay.
Trey Kay.
I know it rhymes. I said, what kind of a nutcase is he?
My job is to talk to people. Usually, I think a good conversation feels a little vulnerable. Like you're making a special kind of deal. You show me your values and I'll show you mine. And there's often a spark, a curiosity. When I hung up with Jan, I just felt sad and a little scared. Whenever I swim somewhere new, I get a little nervous. I don't know the path yet and can't always see what's ahead or behind. And when I swim in a lake, I don't always know what's beneath me. I felt that way watching the hearings, too. It wasn't always because of what I saw on the screen. Sometimes it came from knowing so many people might see the whole thing so differently. I'm not used to coming up empty-handed on Us and Them, but that's how this one feels to me. And maybe that's the challenge of writing about something when you're still in it. You don't always know how deep the water goes. You're listening to Us and Them. Our team for this episode is me, Trey Kay, Christina Stella, and Kate Smith. Special thanks to Frank McDonough. Michael Lipton and Tristan Lozow wrote and performed the Us and Them show music. Mark Lerner designed our logo. The marvelous people at PRX and West Virginia Public Broadcasting make Us and Them possible. So do grants from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, the West Virginia Humanities Council, the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation, and the CRC Foundation. Us and Them was originally developed with assistance from the mentorship program at AIR, the Association of Independents in Radio. We'll see you next time on Us and Them.
Support for this podcast comes from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.